Happiness in life has to do with how we look at ourselves and how we see how God works in our lives. And it boils down to the question of gratitude of what we have and how we have become what we are today. And it's very important because it is always a lack of gratitude that makes us unhappy with ourselves, unhappy with the world. A person who is not grateful will always want to compare himself with others, will never have enough of whatever he has. He is always filled with envy and resentment and bitterness. And that is the reason why the sin of ingratitude causes us to be miserable in life. And so we find this precisely in the people of Israel during the time of Ezra. They were blessed with the covenant. They were blessed with the laws of God to guide them. But instead of using their favored position as the people of God and the blessings the Lord has given to them, they squandered all these away by being divisive in the country, by practicing social injustice and the lack of distribution of the wealth of the people. And so because of that, as Ezra in today's first reading, he said, "For all our crimes have increased and have piled up to heaven. From the day of ancestors until now, our guilt has been great on account of our crimes." And it is true, when we are inward looking, when we are selfish, and when we only care for ourselves, the country became divided and was unable to withstand the enemies from without. And yet, Ezra, recognizing their lack of gratitude to God's blessing, this sense of ingratitude became even more real, became clearer, especially when he thought of the grace and mercy of God. In spite of their sinfulness, God has not abandoned them, and God has freed them from Babylon through the kings of Persia, where they were given a respite and they were able to return to their homeland to build the temple of God. This itself was really a sign of grace, mercy of God for them. And that actually caused Ezra to really feel with remorse, first and foremost, for the sins of his ancestors, and at the same time expressing great gratitude to God. And I think it's important for us in our own life to recognize and to count the blessings that we have. When we have a relationship, it takes time to be purified, it takes time to grow. And it is in this process of the helping each other to grow, the process of forgiving, the process of appreciating the goodness that the person has for each other and the blessings the person has given to us, that helps us to be grateful to God and not to count so much the woes or the mistakes or the sufferings that we have gone through, but to thank God you have remained strong, and that relationship, of course, is still unfolding. That relationship is still growing. But it is important, therefore, again, how we see our relationship with people, whether in marriage and so on, how we see, perhaps for us, even in our work, and to look at, to see how the Lord has been with us, and how the Lord has guided us, and how the Lord has been patient with us in our growth. It's only when we come to recognize that, then we find that really this sense of gratitude will help us to give thanks to God. And just like the people during the time of Ezra, it was through those times in exile that God helped them to come to realize their, what we call their gratitude, their position, their favored position. And it is so true also in our own life, that it is through this process of suffering, of pain, of growth, that we come to appreciate ourselves, to appreciate our loved ones. And that is how the Lord wants us to grow. He allows all these difficulties in our life to really to strengthen, not to destroy us, but to show us His continued love and mercy. And that is the reason why, as we think of our own life, as we think of our relationship with our loved ones, then we want to really find ways to remember the blessings that we have received and also the sufferings that we have gone through. It is actually through the trials that Actually, it's not only the relationship is strengthened, not so much only in times of joy. Joy, everybody is our friend. There is no problem. When you are happy, everybody is around you. I mean, when you are successful, everybody is your friend. It is in those times that when we are down, that when we are suffering, when we are going through ill health, or we have become discouraged, and we have lost self-esteem, and when we think that we are not good enough, and we feel that we somehow are failures in life, and our loved ones continue to be with us and to strengthen us. And those are the times actually that relationship truly flourish, that relationship is strengthened, because we know that at least, there is someone who loves us, not because we are good, not because we are successful, but the person loved us for who we are. And that gives us real strength. And that is true love, actually. And that is the real meaning of love, the meaning of how we really grow in our relationship. So it is very true, as I say, in daily life, even in what we call in our daily life, in terms of work, in terms of achievement. Yes, we are also very happy when we are successful, when we do well. But actually, it's in those times when we have to struggle, and we think, wow, I cannot make it, and it's really difficult, and we feel like giving up. And then somehow, people who support us, and we have gone through, then we can turn back and say, God, you are wonderfully great. If everything is so successful, sometimes we might think, wow, without my intelligence and hard work, things would not have done so well. And that is why, even for myself, when I look at my own life, as a priest and as a bishop, I mean, I have gone through many, many struggles again and again. These struggles have no end until I reach the deathbed, I think. So these struggles again and again, but every time, I feel grateful. It's not because, I'm able to do certain things, achieve certain things. It's that against all odds, these things could be possible. And we know it is the grace of God. That is why in today's gospel, it is very fitting that today's gospel complement to this first reading, because Jesus said to the apostles to go out. He gave them power, authority over all devils who cure diseases. And what did Jesus say to them? Take nothing for the journey, neither staff, nor haversack, nor bread, nor money. Let none of you take a spare tunic. And so in the Gospel of Matthew, St. Matthew even add, you have received freely, so you must give freely. The reason why the apostles were sent out to heal was because they themselves have been beneficiaries of Christ's healing grace and mercy. And that's the reason why they were sent out to proclaim and to heal. We cannot do this unless we ourselves have received God's blessing, unless we have been touched by the Lord. That's why mission, the desire for ministry, the desire to reach out to others, presupposes that we have always been wounded healers ourselves. Of course, as I have always said, wounded healers, their wounds first must be healed before we can heal others. Otherwise, we will cause them to be more wounded if we do not heal our wounds. And so, because we are all wounded healers, when we know that we have been healed by the Lord, then we will be able to use those very wounds, those very sufferings that we have received to heal others. And at the same time, Jesus told the disciples, take nothing for the journey. In other words, this total dependence on God is important. Total dependence on God, to come to realize that without Him, we are inadequate. Without Him, we cannot do what we are doing. And so again, it's because of this total dependence of God. And when things are successful and fruitful, we know that it is because of God alone. And gratitude make us humble. Gratitude make us also sensitive and care for others. When we are grateful, because gratitude means to say we don't deserve what we get and what we have. And because God has blessed us, we too want to bless others who do not have, because God has blessed us first.